All right, hey everybody, let's get started. Topic today is moving MIM groups to Azure AD for identity governance. I'm Nathan Mertz, Senior Architect here for Oxford Computer Group. I don't know if you know who Oxford Computer Group is, but we're an identity-driven security company. We deliver long-term value-added services for identity security, identity governance, and data protection. We have about a 19-year track record deploying identity and hybrid solutions. We have over 900 enterprise projects delivered around the world. We've been Microsoft Identity Partner of the Year 8 times, Savient Impact Partner of the Year twice. We are a 2023 finalist for Zero Trust Champion, which is Microsoft's MISA Excellence Award. And we have close ties to Microsoft and Savient. So we can help you, doing planning and assessment of your current identity and access management system, IGA system. We have training courses for MIM. We do deployment of different identity and access management systems, being MIM and Savient. We do Azure AD, M365, and we have a managed service that we have nearshore in Costa Rica, which we can do help desk support, 24/7 monitoring and alerting, and third-party application management. So if you're interested in any of those things, please reach out to us at info@oxfordcomputergroup.com. I'll have that email address at the bottom. So what is our webinar outline today? I'm just going to go over the basics of what MIM groups capabilities that are out there, probably what you have implemented in your environment. I'm not going to show any of the portal or any of the sync engine. I am going to heavily show the Azure Active Directory group management interface, the AD Connect on-premise with Active Directory. Also, I'm going to show you the different syncing capabilities of groups from the cloud back to on-prem, kind of what you're able to do from a group type perspective. I'm going to show you the group write-back feature with Azure AD features. So that's a big piece of this is having that ability to write groups back to on-premise and then use the Azure IGA features, which are, access reviews, access certification. So that is a big piece of, having the ability to write security groups back to on-premise. I'm going to do a whole demo of the group write back and the access reviews so you can see how it all kind of comes together. So what are the typical MIM group types? In the portal or inside of the synchronization engine, we pretty much could do any type of Active Directory security group. Universal distribution group, global distribution group, domain local, universal security groups, global security groups, and domain local security groups. And if you've ever did any configuration or coding, development, you know how the different group type values come together to create the different groups from what you have in the portal to what you have in Active Directory. And some of those features in the MIM group types, we know we could do dynamic groups. We have manual type groups. And then there's another kind of newer tab, manager-based groups, where you can say anybody that's, as this group, additions or, dynamic additions would be based upon the manager. So anybody that's underneath that manager would be added to that security group. So those are just the basic, groups that you can manage inside of MIM. Yes, there's a approval process and just-in-time process inside of MIM. When we're looking at the PIM-PAM groups, yes, there's a group approvals, but then for just-in-time access, there's the PAM functionality that's in MIM, which I'm not really going to go over much how that compares to what it is in Azure. I'm just going to really heavily rely on the group synchronization right back to on-premise. The Azure group types that are out there, they do have dynamic groups and manual-based groups. The Azure AD group types for write back are M365 distribution groups, mail-enabled distribution groups, M365 security groups, and then the new added group for Writeback is Azure AD security groups. You can do manager-based addition to the groups with a custom criteria, which is direct reports for, and you have to put in the object ID of the manager, and that will have anybody that, and you'll have to configure your user accounts for managers, and then that group would be populated with based upon the manager ID. Cloud distribution list groups are not created in Exchange. Distribution lists that are created in Exchange Online cannot be synchronized back to on-prem. The syncing capabilities. So we have the different types of group types inside of Azure. What do those really translate to what's being synchronized or written back to on-premise? So we have a Microsoft 365 distribution group. It can be mail enabled or not mail enabled. And what kind of group can it be on-prem? It can be a universal distribution group, or it can be a universal security group. As you can see kind of from this chart, all groups that are written back to on-premise are universal groups. They're not domain local, they're not global groups, they're all universal groups. The M365 security groups can only be synchronized or written back to security groups, and Azure AD security groups can be written back to universal security groups. Some of the gotchas or what you need to know about writing back security groups, must create groups to write back in Azure AD first. So you have to have the, you have to create the group in Azure. You have to have the accounts, groups, and devices have to be in both environments. So they have to be in Azure AD and they have to be in Active Directory, or that information will not synchronize between the two environments. That goes from, if you have Azure AD Connect and you're synchronizing groups today and not doing any write-back, you know that the accounts have to exist inside of Azure AD for that membership to be correct. Same thing for the write-back capability. I have to have the accounts to be synchronized in both on-prem and Azure AD for the correct membership to be present. Groups are not deleted for a soft delete, only after a hard delete. So if you go in, delete it, and it will not be deleted to on-prem until after it is a hard delete. So like after 30 days, it will finally remove from the system. Another feature is nested groups. So you can do nested groups just like you did in MIM. You can do the same thing in Azure AD for write-back. You can mix the Active Directory groups and Azure AD groups. I'll show you in the demo that capability. Like I said before, must be universal groups, and everything must be enabled for write-back if you're going to write back to on-premise. On the next slide, I'll explain what is default enabled for write-back. So group write-back capabilities. You need an Azure AD Premium 1 license. You'll need Azure AD Connect version 2.0.89.0 or later. As you can see from this configuration, this is kind of just a screenshot. You'll need to have the unified group write-back true, set to true, and the group write-back v2 set to true. When you have those set to true, then you have the ability to write back not only distribution lists, but security groups also. All existing Microsoft 365 groups will automatically be written back to Active Directory, including all Microsoft 365 groups created in the future. So when you turn on this feature for unified group write back, all those groups are going to be written back immediately. So if they're in Azure AD, they're groups, they're coming back down. But Azure AD security groups are not automatically written back down. That can be changed from Azure AD to on-premise. That can be changed through a command line, PowerShell command line script. Also, to note, Microsoft 365 groups with more than 50,000 members and Azure AD security groups with more than 250,000 members can't be written back to on-premise. However, that that behavior to increase that limit up to, for Microsoft 365 groups, up to 250,000 members can be written back to on-premise by disabling the sync rule group write-back member limit. When you do increase the that member limit, then you'll see the actual synchronization probably slow down a little bit because you're having to handle all the group memberships. So how do we move groups from MIM to Azure? So part of this webinar is, how do we get from on-premise to the cloud, right? I told you, the kind of the capabilities, the different MIM group types, but how am I going to do this? I would start with a slow move of your groups to the cloud. I would start with, a few, creating a few Azure AD groups, seeing how Writeback works, not only distribution lists, but your security groups. You don't want to try to boil the ocean all at once. So if you want to do Azure AD security groups and you want to manage the same type of groups that were in MIM, what I would suggest is kind of do a comparison of, what is the membership inside of MIM, and what, when you synchronize that group to the cloud, kind of what is that membership? If there's any user accounts that have changed, because you want to make sure that your user accounts are identical. So when you do have to create a new Azure AD security group identical to the one that's inside of MIM, that you have those same user accounts for memberships, that you're not providing access or not access because they are not inside of Azure AD, to create that kind of that duplicate group inside of Azure AD that you would do from MIM. Like I said, we can create new groups with existing members using similar naming standards. So if you wanted to give access to resources similar to what you did with the MIM or Active Directory security group, but now that group's in Azure Active Directory, you want to make sure that all your user accounts, devices, or groups, nested groups, that they are the same, that they are kind of identical. So then you can give access to that Azure AD group on-premise to the resources that are currently there. Or if you would like, we can do nested groups. So if you cannot change the your Active Directory groups from on-prem, but you can create a duplicate, kind of a duplicate security group in Azure AD that would be synchronized to on-premise. What we can do is we can do a nested group, so you would not have to change that, change the resource group access, because it is a nested group. So there's all kinds of different methods to getting your MIM groups to the cloud. Start slow. Make sure that that the accounts that are on-prem are in the cloud. Make sure that if you're going to create duplicate groups, that they keep the naming standards pretty similar, so you know what the groups are doing. Making sure that the accounts are inside of those groups, and if you need to provide security to resources with the same identical group, that you could actually do a nested group also, so you wouldn't have to change all of the groups on your resources inside of your on-premise environment. So another piece of this is doing attestation or access reviews. So your auditors can actually understand, who has access to what resources on-prem. With the Azure AD security group write-back process, we can now do access reviews and certification on those on-premise groups, so we know and can control access to those groups on-premise. So question is your organization compliant? Are you doing any auditing? Are you doing any access reviews? And there's 4 key questions that we usually ask is, which users should have access to which resources? What are those users doing with that access? Are there effective organizational controls for managing access, which would be access reviews, access verification? And then can auditors verify that the controls are working? So what is an access review? It makes sure that the right people have the right access and that it is verified or certified by the owner of the group. So who can perform access review inside of Azure? It's any manager. You can set up the group or entitlements for self-review. Owner of a group or app can verify that access also. And how or when should access reviews be scheduled? They can be scheduled once, quarterly, yearly, or monthly. That's usually provided by the auditors when you need to kind of do those access reviews. Some examples are, PIM administrators who needs to be part of an administrator group. You would have an access review, which could, you could do monthly and remove administrators out of that group to verify who should be in and who should be out. Job transfers are another great access review. Is if I'm going from one job title, and you can base it on title. If I'm going from one title to the other, and then a manager can go in and say, yeah, that individual has actually transferred out of this position, and they no longer need access. New groups from Azure AD need to be audited. So any groups that you're creating now, you can add access reviews to. So whoever owns that, or whoever, like if you're creating, let's say if you're a help desk administrator and you're creating groups for an application, you can have the application owner kind of set up, or you have the help desk set up an access review for that group. So you can kind of control your application access from Azure. So kind of what are the auditing capabilities? If I am an Azure IGA administrator, I can create entitlements and access reviews, and then create access packages. So I have the ability to who sets up approvals, rejections, notifications of requests. And in auditing of these access reviews, there's different ways that we can set up the access reviews for auditing. We can approvals. I don't know. So if I'm going in and I haven't, have to provide information on who has access, I can easily go in and set up, who has the access and who does not. And then there's a kind of a rich reporting piece to the access reviews, so we can see who set up the access packages and who requested them, and then what is the status of that actual access package, and what happened with the actual assignments. So now I'm going to go into demo of the process or the product. Azure Group Writeback, I'm going to show you how to do distribution groups, security groups. So I'm going to show how to do distribution group to security group. I'm going to show the nested group functionality, how they, nested groups show up not only on-prem but in the cloud. And then I'm going to do an access request for a security group for on-prem. And I'll show you that process and how that works. All right, so here's Azure Active Directory. I already have the group pulled up. So here's a list of all the groups that I have in my environment. I have the typical AD sync groups because I set up Azure AD Connect. I have some other test groups that I had set up. And if you can see from the screen, I have the ability to manage the different columns. So there's actually target writeback type and writeback enabled that I actually added as a column to this interface. And with that, I have the ability to see what the target write-back is for cloud groups to on-prem. And you can see this one used to be or is a distribution list, so I have the ability to write different types back, and I have the ability to say yes or no if I want this group to be written back automatically. So I can change those. So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to create a new distribution group or Microsoft 365 group. Do demo 1 writeback. Do assign membership. I have a tester sync. That's my account that is on-prem. Hit refresh here so we can see that I created the group. And here it is, demo 1 writeback. As you can see, it's a cloud distribution group, but I do not have it set to write back. I have the ability to do this right from this screen is to write it back, or I can actually go back into the security group or the distribution group. And from the properties page, I can say that I would like to write it back as a security group, mail-enabled security group, or a distribution. So I'm just going to do distribution for right now and hit save. Wait a few minutes. I'm going to go over to here's my Azure AD Connect server. As you can see, I have the synchronization service here in the background. I have the Active Directory right here. So I'm just going to run the synchronization tool to get that security group back to on-premise. Just going to watch this. It's in progress. Have some projections, some ads. And there it is. So as you can see, since I had that test sync user, they are added as a member here. As you can see from the group name, it has a number here, and the group name is $. So this is what's written back via the connector. So this is pretty much how you can distinguish what's from the cloud and what was created on-prem. Can't change it used to be that it would just provide you a number. Now it's you have the ability to it uses the kind of the display name is written down with the underscore number now. But that's just as you can see, also there's a universal group scope and a group type of distribution. And now I'm going to create just a security group real quick. It should be the same process. Doesn't take long. Same user. I'm just going to select from this time. I'm going to select right from this user interface because I added the column information. You can see from the top right, it automatically saves it. And now it's going to write back to on-prem. Since I'm just going to run the PowerShell command to kick it off. See that there's an ad coming in. It should be that security group. There it is. As we can see, that's a universal security group. That's that new V2 feature from on-premise, I mean from the cloud to on-prem. See the member type. And now I'm going to go in, I'm going to change this distribution group to a security group, which I think that's pretty, if you don't want to use that as a distribution group anymore and you want to change it to a security group on-prem, I can do that. All I had to do is hit that drop down, it changed it, saved it, go in and run this again. Got an update. As you can see from the demo one Writeback, it changed it from a universal distribution group to a security group and kept the membership, which is great. So I can change that distribution group to security group. And now I'm going to show you how we can kind of nest security groups. So I have a test sync group here that is a universal security group that I synchronize from on-premise to the cloud. And I have the ability to add Azure AD groups to this as a nested group. And then I have the ability to see that on the Azure group that is written, that's in Azure AD that is written back, that it has a membership of that on-premise group. Same thing goes for when I look at this in Azure AD, I can look up the test sync group and I can see the different members. So it has a nested group of the GPC Entra permission group, which is a cloud only security group. So if I go back one, look at my GPC Entra permissions group, I can see that I am a part of the test sync group. So there in this interface, membership of, so I can see the nested groups that are inside of Azure AD and what is on premise in Active Directory. So that's that kind of the cross nested group process. So now I'm going to demo the access request or access review process of a security group. Like I said before, this is perfect for applications that are, or Active Directory groups that are on premise to do access reviews with Azure AD to see, you can, has the ability to, to show who has access to particular applications, and it provides owners the ability to kind of manage that from a attestation perspective and provide audit logs of of the security groups. So I am just going to go to I'm going to use test group to on-premise. So this is a group that is synchronized to on-prem. It is this group here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an access review for this group. So I have what kind of review type. So select what to review. It can be teams, groups, so guest users only or all users, inactive users on the tenant level only. But I'm going to select all users. What kind of review would I like to do on the security group? I could do multi-stage review, where I could have a first reviewer, couple, they get a particular amount of days to review it. Same thing for a second stage reviewer, and then or sum of duration of all review stages. So I can actually, even though it's 3 days here and 3 days here, I could only make it, maybe 4 days. And reviewers going to the next stage, approved reviewers, not reviews. So there's ways to kind of manage that multi-stage review process. I'm not going to do that for right now. I'm just going to select myself as a reviewer for the security group. I'm just going to set up 3 days. So it gives me 3 days to review this. Here is where you have the actual different reoccurrence. So I could do one time being no reoccurrence, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. I'm just going to do one time. It's going to kick off this process pretty much right now. I can auto apply results to resource. So like when I get done with it, it will actually remove the user or add, keep the user added to that security group. I'm going to, and you have abilities to set, if reviewers don't respond, I can have approve access or remove access. So you don't have the ability to do, I can remove everybody if the access reviewer takes no, does not do anything on the review. So I'm just going to set it as no change. I'm going to have it as justification required, email notifications, and I'm going to get email notifications. At the end of the review, you could set it up to, since I am the reviewer, I will get a notification because of the step below. But if I wanted to, I can send it to like auditing, I can set it, to administrators, whoever needs to see that. So here we go. We have the access review hasn't started yet. Takes it a minute or two, and then it'll start running. It says have one user inside of this group. How many have approved, denied, or I don't know who that user is. Results hasn't been reviewed yet. So I'm just going to wait. See the different settings that we went through before. Just wait for this to get set up. So it's active now. I'm going to do this one also, since this is a security group, so I'll do a distribution, and it's going to take me a couple seconds to do another one. One's going to be a DL, one's going to be a security group. Select myself again. So let's go back to the distribution list. Access review. It's active. So to actually do a access review, I have to go into myaccess.microsoft.com to see my actual access packages and access reviews that are awaiting. So here we go. I can see I have a demo access is the access that I just created. If I select that, I can see the user account or the member that is inside of that group. I can approve, I can deny, user hasn't signed into the last 30 days, so it kind of gave me a recommendation. Don't know is like, I don't know who the person is. I don't know if they work for me, but if you don't know, you can put in a reason why also. I'm just going to deny this user. It'd be the same thing as for accepting recommendations. The recommendation is to deny. I'm going to hit submit. Go back to my access review. I was denied, as you can see. Go back to the overview, denied. And what we should see now is I'm going to stop this because it's set up for 3 days. I'm going to stop. Yes, the user is denied. And what we should see, go back, just make sure that that is fully completed here, is we should see the members here removed when I run the synchronization. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go back to this access review. It's active. I'm going to see what I have here again. Should show up another access review. Demo. I'm going to hit deny this time, pop up. Same thing for this one, denied, completed, stop. Since that is complete, I'm not going to wait 3 days. Well, I'll run the synchronization again so I can get the users out of the security group. Make sure that this is running. Updates to see if I do another refresh here, get the results I need. There we go. Awesome. So as you can see, I did an access review for distribution lists and for the groups and for the security groups. And as you can see, this security group used to have the test user account, and it was test sync user, and that has been removed. Same thing for the distribution list. So as you can see, we did access review for security groups and distribution lists on premise. So you can start using, access review and access certification inside of Azure AD for your on-premise groups. So that is the kind of the extent of the slide deck and the demo. I'm just going to go over one more slide here, or two more slides, and then we can get into questions. Let me just go down to the bottom here. Also, we have a new product called Identity Director, where we can replace your MIM Portal that's on premise It uses the MIM service. It is HTML5, one-page application that runs on IIS. So if you have SharePoint licenses that you would no longer want to use, or we can easily set up the MIM, this new identity director, to replace kind of the MIM portal. It has all the same functionality because it uses the MIM service. It just looks as an HTML5. It has a new look and feel. If you would like to see a demo of that, we'd be more than happy to show you. We do have this inside of the cloud, inside of Azure, as an application that kind of comes back and talks to the MIM service. That is just in preview only, but the other on-premise replacement is fully operational and is in production. If you'd like to see a demo of that, I'm going to put out a poll here for anybody that would, if you're interested in the identity director, or if you're interested in Oxford Computer Group to help you with any of your MIM group transitions to Azure groups, we'd be more than happy to help. If there's no more questions, just want to thank everybody for their time. If you have any further questions, please reach out to us. You can reach us at info@oxfordcomputergroup.com. Our Twitter page, LinkedIn, or Facebook.